I've never played this one or the other one. Or the NES one. Let's try this shit. Whoa. Mode 7. It's the good shit. Ocean. Damn, once again. Another ocean hit. Music on. Okay.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Damn, it sounds like shit. What the fuck? How do you shoot? That's all you get. Alright, so I wanted to talk about Jurassic Park 1 a little bit. No need to do like a full review because it's pretty much a perfect movie. Like, I know nothing's perfect, but like, if you're gonna grade media, grade art, you know, eventually something has to get a perfect score, right? So this is a movie that definitely qualifies as perfect, you know, 10 out of 10. Probably my favorite movie of all time. I haven't thought too much about what my favorite movies ever are, but yeah, it's probably my favorite. Certainly like top 3. Easy. And yeah, I can still remember the first time I saw it. I would have been like 6 years old when I was living in Austin. I used to call them the dollar theaters, but it's like a second run theater that my dad would take me to because it was cheap, you know, something we could do together. And for like a 2.5 year stretch there, from like 93 to like 95, I saw some bangers there. Dumb and Dumber and Basic Instinct. So yeah, those were good times. But yeah, the actual experience of watching the movie, like the shoot-ah scene, like the fucking sound was like crazy to me as a little kid. And then obviously I've talked about how like I was scared of the Dilophosaurus, even seeing it more than once, because I would go back there and watch it again, and I would have to cover my eyes when the fucking fins would come out. Yeah, that shit fucked me up. But yeah, great movie. Yeah, I've always said it, like Jurassic Park is like, it's kind of like my Star Wars. And it's like, I always say it's like Spielberg's Star Wars, in the sense that like, even though he didn't come up with Jurassic Park, like, it's a franchise with like, you know, there's logos and there's like a fleet of vehicles, you know what I mean? And you got a John Williams score and the fucking sound design. Even though Star Wars didn't have CGI, like, it was still like very cutting edge in terms of like visual effects. So yeah, that's why I always call it like Spielberg's Star Wars, more than Indiana Jones, because they weren't gonna like sell like fucking Nazi tanks and shit. They should have. They would have made a lot of money. But yeah, they weren't gonna go that route with who was making it. But yeah, I just had a couple notes of some stuff I wanted to point out about the movie that I've noticed over the years. I could like recite the whole movie when I was a kid, because once I had the VHS, I would watch that shit all the time on a loop. On rotation with Ninja Turtles. Damn, it's fucking early 3D shit. Oh yeah, so after that scene with the raptors, look, back. Uh, then it cuts to like Gennaro meeting up with he calls him, so he's on like a little raft, right? And he's like, "Hola Juanito," and it's like, why does he call that guy Juanito? Like he's a little kid, like he knows him, you know? I always thought that was funny. And Gennaro says like how like Hammond's not even here, and he's like, you know, he had to be with his daughter. She's getting a
It's a cool game over screen.
They
Nice
never,
JPEG.
followed up on Hammond's daughter. Like I thought Claire was gonna be Bryce Dallas Howard, the queen. I thought she was gonna be like related to Hammond, but they never even try and tie it back to him anymore. Maybe Scarlett Johansson will be a descendant or whatever. Yeah, I always thought it was weird that he called him that. And he's like, Grants like me is a digger. Que lindo es. Oh yeah, I wrote how like so the scene with Wayne Knight, and he's like, you know, waiting on Dodson. He's like, we got Dodson here. When Dodson's showing him the shaving cream, and he's like, look what this can do, and he like puts it on his hand. He's like, no menthol. But like when he's showing him how it works, and he's like unscrewing it, he like presses the little mechanism to where you put the embryos, and Wayne Knight does like this shriek laugh where he's like, but it's literally like, I think it's just the same sound, or like one of the sounds they use for the Raptors. I think they use that like over his laugh or whatever, because it's like, I'm pretty sure it's like the same sound. I remember watching the behind the scenes of how they made the scene, and it shows like Spielberg like huffing into a bag and shit to make the noise. I used to love watching those docs. Yeah, the thing with Hammond, like when he shows them like the video and how he made the park and the DNA and shit, like it's kind of a ride, but like there's no way he could really sync up that video to what he was doing. You know, that's just like, that's just a movie thing. I don't think that would like actually, there's no way you would be able to sync that up for people. Oh yeah, speaking of the score, like when they're going to that location, the visitor center, like I said, it's got that, you know, obviously the main theme, but there's even like a march he does where it's like dun da da dun da da dun na 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 dun da da dun da da dun da da dun na 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 na. That's a good one. And even before when they're going to see the Brachiosaurus for the first time, and Gennaro's bitching, it's like a little whimsical, fast, like you know, it's got like this nice little driving beat. Kind of reminded me of like what he did with like Harry Potter score and shit. But yeah, the music is top notch. Oh, and like when Wayne Knight, when Nedry's like stealing the embryos, and like he pulls up the little cryo chambers where where it's holding the embryos, and the music like goes like da-na-na-na-na when he opens it is pretty cool. Oh, the scene where Alan is with Lex and Tim, and they're trying to climb over the fence, and it's about to go off, and so Tim needs to hurry up. He's like, come on, jump, you know? And like Lex, like she has a line where she's like, she tells Tim, come on, dude, this guy says. And it's like, doesn't she like, is pretty familiar with him by now to like, wouldn't she say like, do what Dr. Grant says or do what Alan says? Like, she's just like, do what that guy says. Like, what the fuck? I felt that was a little disrespectful. The scene where Ellie's in like the ducks trying to turn the power back on, and she's like, "Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business." And then the hand comes on, and she's like, "Mr. Arnold." As a kid, I never knew who the fuck Mr. Arnold was. It's Samuel Jackson, but I was also confused because like the skin tone on the hand, I feel like doesn't really match Samuel Jackson. I thought that was a weird thing. Oh yeah, speaking of Ellie, when they're going to get in there, the clever girl scene after that, and when she escapes, and then like she runs into Alan with Lex and Tim, and you see her like coming over the hill. Even as a kid, I was like, damn, she looks pretty good because she's got like just like a tank top and shorts. And then later on, when they're escaping the raptors, and they go up into the air ventilation or whatever. There's an underneath shot, so you get a little upskirt because she doesn't really fill out those shorts very well. They're like kind of baggy on her. But yeah, I appreciate that. Oh yeah, I love Ian's laugh. He has like a weird laugh when they're first in the helicopter going to the island. You know, where Hammond's like, "I bring the scientist, you bring the rock star," and but Ian Malcolm's like, so you dig up dinosaurs, and then he's like, "Ha, ha, ha, ha." And there's like a song that just loops that laugh like behind a beat, which I used for when I played Rocket League with the Jurassic Park Jeep. I used that song. It's awesome. But I always thought that was like a weird, unique laugh that he made. I like the scene where they escape and they're about to get on the helicopter to leave, and Hammond kind of just stands there and like kind of takes it all in, and he's like, "Fuck, man," and Alan kind of has to snap back to reality. I like that little moment. And also before he does his little flea circus scene where he's talking to Ellie. When that scene starts, it starts with a shot of like the merch, and there's like a green brachiosaur stuffed toy, and I actually had that, and I didn't even know it was Jurassic Park related because it just looked like a generic dinosaur toy. But when that scene starts, like Ellie is just kind of like looking at John Hammond like eat ice cream behind the corner. She's just like watching him for a second, which I thought was weird. And I remember always wishing that when they escaped, that like instead of birds, it was like pterodactyls flying, which they did that eventually, but way later, not even in Lost World. So yeah, having said all that, Spielbergo being who and what he is, how juicy is this movie? After people are noticing what they're noticing. So Gennaro, he's like, I guess he's Catholic, because when he's about to get eaten by the T-Rex, he's like saying Hail Marys and shit. But like, you know, he's portrayed as the blood-sucking lawyer, and he leaves the kids behind. And obviously he's not like very strong in his faith, because he runs away from the T-Rex, and he's like a little bitch trying to like get him to leave. And like I said, so they portray the one technically Christian figure as like a little pussy. So yeah. And then also the scene with when they first go to the T-Rex paddock, and he's like, you wouldn't happen to have dinosaurs here on your dinosaur tour, would you? But right after that or whatever, he has that thing where he's trying to explain chaos to Ellie. And so, you know, you can't really blame him because he's like hitting on her in front of Alan, but he doesn't know. And they establish that later at, you know, that night when he's like, "You two aren't together." And Alan is finally like, "Oh yeah, we are actually." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, man." But like during that scene, you know, Ellie knows they're together, right? So she's like, you know, "Explain this to me." and he's like, touching her hair and like touching her hand and shit. And she even like tells Alan like, "Hey, Alan, look at this," and he's like oblivious to it or whatever. Like he doesn't give a fuck. So, and even in Jurassic Park 3, where she's like married with someone else, and he's like coming over to dinner and shit, which is weird. Yeah, there's a little cucky shit. Sad to say. But yeah, it's definitely there. And then Nedry, of course, is the villain of the movie, right? And he's like, a greedy little selfish bastard. He's the one that ruins Hammond's paradise. So, there's little stuff here and there that you notice, and with 2025 lenses. But yeah, that being said, still a great movie. One of my favorites, an all-time classic. Alright, this game sucks. I wasn't missing much with the Super Nintendo version. It looks pretty cool though.